Hey guys, today we're going to take a look at how we can actually end our mission. So far we made a mission where we have a game master who can, of course, place down new units, place down things, create tasks, and even end the game. But it's a bit weird having to have the game master do that, because we would like to just end our mission by some objective. Maybe you go clear a compound or something, and then the mission should end. So I'm going to show you a few things that we can do to end our mission. Now the first and easiest method is just a time limit. If the time limit is reached, mission ends. Easy as that. So you can have that as a fail condition. You can put a time limit on a mission and say, hey, you didn't manage to do it in 10 minutes. You're too slow. Mission failed. VIP left the area or whatever. So what you can do is you can just come to your game mode that you've placed down, and you can come over to the components, and under game mode, just on the entity itself, you can find time limit. And if it's 0, that means there isn't a time limit, it just goes on forever. And otherwise, you can set it to something in seconds. So let's say we're going to set it to 20 seconds, which obviously is way too low, but allows me to show you what happens. So I'm just going to go in game and spawn in, and I'll see you there. Alright, so we're in game, and we're just going to wait for a few seconds, and then the end game screen should show up. Isn't it bright? There we go. And you're gonna see one thing that's kind of annoying. It's a draw. Okay, well, if you can read German, you know it's a draw. So no one wins. That's kind of... I mean, if you're doing a versus mission, that's probably the best thing to do. You know, time up, no one managed to win, so it's a draw. If you're doing a co-op or single player mission, this is probably not what you want. A draw sounds kind of, I don't know, not great for a single player mission. I'm going to show you how you can change it, but also it's not the greatest solution. Alright, so what if you don't want to draw? What's a thing you can do about it? And the easiest solution is to come over to your game mode again, and under script, you can hit the plus. And what we do want to override is the eOnFrame method. I'm just going to click that, and I'm going to click edit. We're going to the script editor, and we have this override eOnFrame here. First thing you will notice with these scripts, there is a highlighted area here in like light gray, while everything else is dark gray. You cannot type outside this light gray area. You can only type within that light gray area. So don't be confused. This is for your own good, I guess. So you don't accidentally, you know, mistype or mess up the signature for the function. But how do I even know we need to overwrite this? And what are we going to put in here? So the easiest thing to do is you can go to the base class. So what you can do in the script editor, you can hold down Control and just left click on a name of a class, and it will go there. You can also click on a function and it will go there. So if we have .getPlayerID, you can click and it will put you there. That's really good for navigating to places real quickly. Other than that, if you're looking for something, this find symbol over here is also really great. So if you're looking, how do I end the game? You can search for like end game, and it's going to show you everything that has something to do with ending the game. You say, okay, I don't want variables, I want a method to end the game. And then you'll find stuff there, for example. Or you can just come down here and just text search the entire solution, and it'll show you that too. So that's a great way also to find out places where it's used in the game modes that are already implemented, so you can learn how to do it yourself in your own scripts. Anyways, if we come to this game mode editor and you read through it, you won't find anything about timeout. So we can go to the base game mode then from there. And if we scroll down here, at some point, we will find a time limit. If we just search for that, so I just hit, I double clicked it, so it's selected, hit Control F, and I'm just gonna hit enter. It's gonna find it, so I just keep hitting F3 to go to the next occurrence. And then we're here and we can see end game mode with editor faction draw. This is what we want to change. So if we scroll up a bit and look what function is this in, it's on eOnFrame. And that's why in our script we override eOnFrame. Now, why I don't think this is a great idea is, well, they hard-coded it. That's kind of dumb, but okay. And the problem is if they come in and change this function, you're gonna have to copy it again. Because what we're gonna do is we're gonna copy this function. Now, you might say, okay, but if I want to do everything the parent function does, can I just do super.eOnFrame? If you type it correctly. Isn't this what we're supposed to do? And yes, you are. But the problem is, when we do that, it calls this before our function runs. Or, well, you could run our function first and then call this at the end. Either way, we're gonna have to somehow replicate this whole logic of calling end game mode. No matter if we use the super eOnFrame or not. And if we do it after, well, too late. It's already been called by the super call. So all we can really do here is we can come over and we can just copy this entire function. Only copy what's in between the curly braces. And we can paste it here. And then what we can do is we can come down here to editor faction draw. And we can say editor faction. And what we'll have to do is victory. Defeat isn't actually supported. And you can find this out because game mode end data doesn't actually use game over types. Very clever design again. They use these end reasons. So instead, what would be more useful is you could say scr game mode end data. Then we delete all that. And we have reason. And then we can find reason faction victory. And defeat isn't in there. It's not supported. It's okay. Someone won. But now we need to still tell it who did. So winner ID would be a player, but not a single player one, a faction one. So we need winner faction ID. So either you could pass -1 here and then just go on to the next. Or what you can do is type winner faction ID colon, and then we can now put an ID behind that, and it just works like Python. It's a named argument. So that's really nice that they give us that. And now we need to find out what's this faction ID though. You could hard code it to like 1, but what faction is 1? Is that US? Is it USSR? Who knows? So say you're making a co-op mission playing as the US, and when time is up, you want the US to lose. So what you could do is get the game, and from that get the faction manager. So we're gonna have the faction manager. I'm gonna call it facman. And now from this, and this is a thing, if you get your variable and it doesn't do any completion for you, well, right now it might be because here's a compile error. You can see this X. It's telling me there's something wrong with this line of code. Even if I comment it out, it still tells me it's wrong. What I'm gonna do is for a second, I'm just going to put a -1 here for now. I'm going to save. And let's see if factman works. It does, okay. So if it still doesn't work for you, you can hit F7. That will compile the script. And if there's any errors, it will tell you here. Go fix them, and then you should have completion again. So what we want to do is we want to get faction by key. And where you set these up again is in your game mode, in the faction manager. Let's see, which one is that? This one. In the faction manager, under the faction, you have the faction key. So USSR is one, FIA is another, and US is the third. So what we want to do is get faction by key USSR. And remember, we're doing victory. So if the US is supposed to lose, the USSR needs to win. Or the FIA if you're playing against the FIA, of course. And this is going to return us a faction. Anyways, we got the faction manager and we got the faction, but now we still need to get the ID of it. The way we do this is we have the faction manager again, and we can, here we go. And we can do get faction by index. No, that's not what we want. We want get faction index. And you see the problem is it doesn't want the key, it wants the faction itself. So you first have to get it by key and then pass it in here. I don't know why they didn't just get faction index by key, but okay, sure, why not? And we pass the faction in here and we get an int out USSR index. And then that we can pass in over here for the winner faction ID. So what we did is these 3 lines get us the USSR factions index, and then we pass that to this end game mode end data for the winner, and the end reason is that a faction has a victory, and then it calls end game mode with that, and end game mode is going to display the game over screen and all that kind of stuff. And now if we go into our world, again, this is a user script over here. And by the way, you can overwrite multiple things here. So if you say you also want to overwrite like E on visible or something, that's gonna put that in here. And that's why you only have these light gray areas that you can actually edit. Because now I can also just come back and I want to maybe delete this. I can click this back arrow, this back arrow, and it's gonna be gone from the script. So that's actually quite nice. Right, just gonna spawn in here real quick. And we're gonna wait some 20 seconds to get the game over screen. Just enjoy some nice jumping. There we are, game over. And now we actually get, you lost, the Soviet army has won. And so there you are. You have to overwrite that method, but you can make the time limit be a failure for your team. Right, that's all I have for you on the time limit, and we're going to look at another method next. Alright, so now we're going to take a look at the second possibility to end your game. But again, it's not pretty, unfortunately. So if we come to our game mode and we look at the components that it has, we're going to find that it has a scoring system component. And in here you're going to have different scores. So for example, a kill will give you 1 point, a team kill will remove a point, death doesn't do anything, suicide is going to remove a point, completing an objective is going to give you a point. That's all very nice. To actually use this scoring system component now, what you'll have to do is you come to actions and you're going to add one. And you're going to add an end game action. And under scoring mode, either you can say a player. That means when any player reaches the threshold, the game is over and that player wins. If you say faction, then if a faction reaches that score limit, the game is going to be over. Or you can say any, which I guess is either faction or player. But since a player belongs to faction, it's really just faction. Anyways, we're going to go to faction because we want, for example, the US to win. And we're going to put the score limit to 3, for example. Just so we can very quickly see it here in game. This means if, for example, I do 3 kills or I complete 3 objectives without doing team kills and suicides in between, we should be good to go. 3 kills and the game is over. There's just multiple slight problems with this. First of all, by default, this only counts kills against other players. If you kill an AI, you're not getting any points. We can fix that though. And you can go digging through the code. I just did that for a long while. We can fix that though. We can make our player kill AI. We're just not going to do it on player killed. We're doing it in the base game mode on controllable destroyed. Right? What we're going to do is we're going to head over to our game mode. We're going to select the game mode itself. And on script, we're going to hit the plus and we're going to search for controllable. Well, it's not in here anymore because I already overrode it. But you want to overwrite uncontrollable destroyed. And what you can do is you can get the player ID, which is this line of code, which I copied, I think, from here. There, it does it here. I just copied this player ID. And we're getting the player ID for the whoever got killed. And then we're getting the killer ID for, well, the killer. I just put a log here, just in case. And if the player ID is 0, meaning this is an AI that got killed, or maybe it's a vehicle or something. And also, if the killer's ID isn't 0, because if it is 0, @kill will crash. If it isn't 0, then we can get the scoring component and add a kill to the player. And then we do all this spaghetti that we just looked at. So this is basically forcing it to add a kill even if the killed thing wasn't a player. So you think, okay, cool, we fixed it, we can now kill AI, awesome. But there's a caveat to it. Let's just have a look in game, shall we? Alright, I'm just gonna spawn in here. And let's go kill an AI. We should be able to, oops. We should be able to see an AI come around the corner here any second. Or we can see that guy up there. Okay, we killed him. And, oh, would you look at that? Actually, look at the print it got. We got player ID 0 and killer ID 0. That's not good. For some reason, even though we're a player, it says we're player 0, which doesn't exist. So that's great. I don't know why I did that. I didn't have this problem before. Aha, look now. This time we killed someone and we got killer ID 1. So this time the game was able to find us as a player and add a kill to us. And would you look there, we have a kill. That's nice, we have 1 score. But you can see it doesn't always just find us. And here's the next thing. If we're in a car... If we're in a car and kill someone... Player ID is also 0. You cannot kill people from within vehicles. It's not going to give you a score. Yeah, I don't think... Wait for Bohemia to fix that. I don't think there's anything you can do. Because, this get player ID from controlled entity, that's an engine call. That's not a script you can override. So honestly, forget about the scoring component. It just doesn't work. If you want to make a deathmatch and player versus player without vehicles, it might just work if it's able to find your killer ID. But just no. Nah. Just don't do that. Anyways, in the next section, we're gonna look at doing all that stuff with triggers. So we're gonna set up a trigger that's gonna trigger either, for example, when an area is cleared of enemies, and we're gonna make a second special trigger ourselves with a script, which will activate once a specific enemy has been killed. So it's like an assassination, right? So one is clear the area and the other is kill the VIP. These are two triggers we're going to take a look at, and we're going to make it so that when both of them activated, the game is then going to end. And after that, we're going to have another part where we'll look at tasks, because even if using triggers, they're not going to show up in the UI. And then the next step up from that is actually using tasks. I think this video has been getting too long here. We're looking at two of the most basic variants of ending the game, and they don't even work properly. Anyways, see you in the next video, and goodbye.